Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I hope you're doing well. Now, I mentioned in my last video but one that the next couple of videos that I would share would most likely be warning videos and somewhat challenging. So I'm sharing the second one of those today, and I hope I managed to do this with grace and humility, and you're able to hear the Lord's heart through my message as I struggle to put this adequately into words. So a while back, I dreamt that I was talking to a former head teacher that I've worked with. Now, just as an aside, before I say any more about this person, if you know me personally, please do not try to work out who this person was. Over my teaching career, I've worked with many head teachers, some very good, some not so, in primary schools, secondary schools, at home and abroad, while teaching languages as well as general subjects, English as a second language, and working as a SENCO, a special ed teacher. So I just wanted to say that up front so that if you know me, you don't get distracted from the message by trying to figure out who in real life I'm referring to. Anyway, so this person was very manipulative. They were calculating and deceitful. Excuse me. I knew that something was wrong, and I pressed this person to tell me what it was. They were very unwilling, indicating a reluctance to admit to what was actually falsehood and deception on their part. However, finally, they did tell me this. They told me that their daughter was dying and that she would be dead by August. Well, I was very shocked, and I immediately began to flail around, struggling to breathe. I could only draw breath with great difficulty, and I was gasping, "I can't breathe," over and over. I woke up and I found that I could indeed not breathe in reality. My nose was very blocked and I was struggling to breathe through my nose. Well, it wasn't until later, when I was pondering on this dream, which I thought was very strange, and the whole experience was very strange, and I began praying about it, that I began to realize that this was actually, in fact, a God moment. This became especially clear because on that day when I woke up, which was a Sunday, I went to a church service where the teaching that I heard was very problematic. The way that the message was preached was not good, and it appeared to only present, as it were, half the story. As such, if a listener were not discerning or Berean or well versed in the scriptures, they would be vulnerable to espousing a false gospel, even if this was not intentional on the part of the preacher. This was very distressing to me, and I genuinely felt suffocated in that place. As I was talking to the Lord later that evening and pondering on the dream, the question that prompted me to dig deeper was in the dream, when I felt like suffocating, I thought to myself, why on earth didn't I open my mouth? That is surely an instantaneous, automatic human response. I mean, if you pinch your nose, you'll very soon find that your body will quickly respond with an automatic reflex. You will open your mouth. As I was praying about all of this and asking myself this question, why on earth didn't I open my mouth? The following scripture came immediately to mind. From Isaiah 53, verse 7. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. I asked God for a clear interpretation of the dream, and what came to me was as follows. The head teacher represented those head, as in from the head teachers, those lead teachers, those church leaders, or, as I say, or those who teach from the head and not from the word. And I'm talking about those ones who are being deliberately deceitful and deliberately withholding the truth from their congregation for their own gain or for their own purposes. And they will not reveal this unless challenged. When pressed, the head teacher in my dream revealed that their daughter was dying and would be dead by August. I believe the daughter represented that which such false teachers, so to speak, give birth to, their teachings, their ministries, that which proceeds from them. All of this false teaching was, so to speak, dying and was due to be dead by August. I felt this was very soon and very imminent, although I don't believe this necessarily meant literally the month of August of this year, 2024. Instead, we know that August is the 8th month, of course. The significance of the number 8 is that it is the number of Jesus, the number of Yeshua, Messiah, and in line with that, it is the number of new beginnings. I'll give you an example. There are 7 days in a week, so the 8th day is the beginning of the new week. In the Bible, 8 people came out of the ark for a new beginning after the flood, and there are many more such examples. I also read that the number 8 represents spiritual completion and fulfillment, especially of God's plan or work, as you can see here. And it also bespeaks the fullness of time. You see that here. Which reminded me of the word that I received when I began this YouTube ministry over 6 years ago, when the Lord spoke clearly to me saying, time is up, and he said, it is the time of the fulfillment of all things. So what I believe this signifies is a warning that the time of God's grace is coming to a very soon end. Jesus, Yeshua, is about to come back for his bride, and he will remove those from the earth who are sold out for him and leave behind those who are not. We need to pray always and watch that we may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. In so doing, he will expose and bring to an end, or put to death, false, deceptive, worldly, and man-centered teaching. And it may well be that those who were taken in by this will in fact turn on those false teachers when they realize that they've been left behind to face the worst 7 years in history. This process will mark the bringing about of the fulfillment of God's plan to put an end to sin, or as it says in Daniel 9 here, to make an end of sins, and to usher in a new beginning, the millennial kingdom, under King Jesus, King Yeshua, on his return. This will be the time when there will be a new beginning, and he will ultimately make all things new. All of this is imminent. So I have to return to the key question from this dream/stroke experience. Why on earth didn't I open my mouth? Now, this is a very challenging question, and I believe, with the greatest of respect to my listeners, I believe that this is the question that the Lord is challenging all of us to ask ourselves. When confronted with false teachers and false teaching, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to keep silent and go like a lamb to the slaughter, taking others with us? Or are we going to open our mouths and speak out, enabling us to stay spiritually alive, and hopefully others too? I must just say that I think there is an important distinction to be made here between simply differing with one another on what I will call peripheral doctrinal issues. I try to think of some examples. So, for example, like infant baptism versus adult baptism, or which church or denomination we should attend, or whether tithing is for today. One may feel very strongly about these and other matters, and we may be absolutely convinced that we're right. But I would say that these are not what I would call salvation issues. However, when it does come to salvation issues, and a false gospel is being preached, such as Paul says, another Jesus, one that would actually lead others away from salvation instead of into salvation, we need prayerfully to consider what we should do about this. This might mean a conversation with the preacher or with those who have been led into accepting a false gospel. These situations are difficult, especially when one wishes to follow the Bible's exhortation to do all things in love, and that all of our speech should be seasoned with grace. And these discussions need always to be based upon Scripture and not personal opinion. For myself, I always pray for guidance over such matters as to how to approach people, and I ask the Lord to guide me and speak through me, and I carefully search all matters out in Scriptures first. I appreciate these can become very emotive. It's difficult. So I try to search all matters out in Scriptures first so that I have a biblical basis for what I'm saying. Of course, no single person is in possession of all the truth. We all see through a glass darkly, as the word says, and we do not yet know as we are known. However, the warning to the watchman stands, which is, in Ezekiel 33, it states, if the watchman sees the sword come and does not blow the trumpet, and the people are not warned, and the sword comes and takes away any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at the watchman's hand. I don't want to be responsible for anybody being left behind because I did not stand up and speak when I heard a false gospel being preached. Even sharing this dream today is difficult for me as it is very challenging, but I'm trying my best to fulfill that very calling that we've just read here in Ezekiel 33, to speak out. I believe the best course of action for all of us is to stay very close to the Lord in all things and at all times, doing all that we can to purify ourselves, living lives worthy of our calling, remaining daily in His Word, being Berean, seeking His truth, and asking Him to fulfill and honor His promise to us to lead us into all truth, and measuring and testing all that we see and hear by His Word alone. Please believe me when I say I'm having to ask myself this question. It's not comfortable, but I'm being challenged to choose to stand on His Word and to stand for His Word, no matter what man thinks. And I have to ask you the same question. Is God challenging you too? Thank you for listening. God bless.